Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us today for this webinar, which is part of our FutureMakers Toolkit, a set of online resources to help you start or grow your small business. I'm Dr. Jodie Trembath. I'm the Director of Skills, Employment and Small Business with the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, otherwise known as ACCI. And we are thrilled to be bringing you the FutureMakers program for women entrepreneurs. In today's session, we'll be exploring practical ways to strengthen a growth mindset, reduce self-doubt, and create well-being practices that sustain performance in business. This isn't about quick fixes. It's about building confidence, clarity, and resilience in the face of everyday challenges. Now, before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping notes. Please keep your microphones and cameras turned off throughout the session to minimize background noise and distractions. If you'd like to use subtitles, you can turn those on by clicking the CC or Show Captions option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A at the end of the webinar, so you're welcome to pop your questions into the chat at any time and we'll make sure that they get addressed at the end. If you go to the chat, it will say chat disabled. That's a lie. So just click on New Chat, choose ACCI Events, and then your questions will come through to the team directly. We are so fortunate to be joined today by Maria Smith, a small business owner, a wellbeing pioneer, and a mindset expert. As the founder of Bounce Global, Maria has spent nearly 2 decades helping leaders build resilience and to thrive. She brings a unique mix of lived experience and positive psychology, showing women in business how to lighten the load and lead sustainably. It is such a privilege to have her with us to share her insights and answer your questions. Maria, welcome.
Thank you, Jodie. And it is so amazing to be here with you. And I'm excited for our conversation today. And welcome to everyone joining as well from wherever you are. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's just jump straight in because I love your origin story. Can you share with us a little bit about your business and how it came to be?
I can. So back in 2006, I had been living in the US. I was born and raised in Maryborough, Central Victoria, but I had spent a fair bit of time over in Seattle, Washington. And I had my son in the US, and then I returned home to my hometown. And when I returned to my hometown of Maryborough, the intention was to move to Melbourne. And in that time, though, there I was in my hometown, and Maryborough was known at the time in 2006 to have the 4th highest unemployment rate in the country. We had a lot of other statistics that weren't fantastic. And suddenly, my son's biological father left Australia and went back to America. And then I found myself to be another statistics as a sole parent living in Maryborough without a job. And in that moment, it was a really crucial point of what was I going to create for myself? And it was driven by my son, how I was going to create a world that would support him to allow him to thrive. And so suddenly this value of security kicked in. And just through some really incredible moments, I was at netball training and this woman had said to me, "What did you do in America?" And I just said motivational training. And she said, "We need to talk. I need you to help me with my job seekers who I'm trying to help get into employment." And I said, "Oh, let's talk." And in that moment, we kind of had this really incredible synergy of how do we build resilience inside somebody who's been really disadvantaged and the furthest from the employment line. So I designed the Bounce program. And from that is actually how I started my company Bounce, and which was interesting when I think of where I had been and I'd had jobs and been able to do things, but suddenly the shift became, how do I drive something that's purposeful and meaningful, but actually is going to pay me? At the end of the day, I needed a job, but this was just this perfect synergy of my values being met, something that gave me purpose, meaning, and contributed to the country, contributed to people, but actually gave my son the best opportunity to be able to thrive as well. So that's how Bounce started. And then from that point of view, I developed the program that became the Bounce program. And now today, almost 20 years later, next year it's 20 years, we license the program and train trainers to deliver that. But then it's naturally escalated into teaching skills of coaching, developing leaders as coaches. And now today, I actually work very specifically with senior leaders and executive teams. And so all the learnings from that very beginning are exactly how I deliver what I deliver now, with the context of positive psychology, behavioral science, really understanding cognitive behavioral coaching. So it's all that mindset, behavior, engagement, and outcome. So that's Bounce.
Love that. And I love the serendipitous moment of being at netball, and
Yes.
that's how like your business gets to start.
Yes.
And that's so often the case, isn't it? That, people have these stories of needing to be in the right place at the right time, but also needing to be able to put yourself in places where you might be in the right place at the right time. You got to get out there.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big distinction. So back then for me, having a baby, my networks weren't huge. And so it was a big part of getting out of the comfort zone, knowing that in order to build this business, I had to market, I had to sell. And I'd had a sales background, but it's really different when you start getting out, connecting and networking. And it absolutely is the not what you know, it is the who you know. So it was becoming the who you know. How do I build all those relationships? But at the core of that, it takes a whole lot of what we're going to talk about today, right? That mindset, that resilience, that absolute belief that I could do it even when I didn't think I could.
Yeah. So let's talk about self-awareness when you're in a challenging time or a challenging experience. So has there been a particular moment for you when self-awareness has helped you shift your mindset?
Oh, it is. I'm going to tell you right now, self-awareness is the thing to have everywhere you can have it. So it's a thing to be really mindful of. The moments of self-awareness let me then adjust to get to self-regulation. But if we start to think about the moments where I know my brain might feel like I can't do this or people won't listen to me, like especially in the beginnings for me, it was like, who am I to do this thing? Who am I to build this business? And I didn't have an identity in my brain that I'm a businesswoman. It was simply that I've got something that means something and I want to put it into the world. And so for me, the practice of self-awareness is taking self-reflective time. It's having moments in the day where I can think, what do I need to do differently here? Having that preview of the week gone to the preview of the week starting. So bringing practice of self-awareness means I have to actually manage my time and put it into my day, into my week. And it is a superpower. I have a new book coming out soon, and there's a lot in that space of understanding self-awareness. When I have self-awareness, that is where it starts. Then I've got to have self-regulation, which we're going to talk about when we talk about resilience. But if I have the awareness, I at least bring enough mindfulness to think, where's my adjustment? So especially in the beginning, there was a whole lot of, I don't know what I don't know. And so it was just taking care of myself in the space of uncertainty. And that means having awareness of it. But I do want to make a distinction. For some people, self-awareness is not an energizer. And it's a strength for me. I'm energized by it so I can perform it well. But for some people, it's like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to have awareness. I just need to keep going, keep going. And I just want you to have a mindful awareness of how can I build it into my day to just take the time to pay attention to myself and where am I sitting. That's all you need to do with it.
If you are one of those people who finds self-awareness, and I guess the insights that self-awareness brings, draining rather than energizing, what do you do? Because you do need to build it in. Like it's as you say, it's a skill, it's a superpower, and you need to be able to do it in order to, keep moving forward. But if you're going to find it draining, how do you find that balance?
I love that you're asking that question because the reality is, and for me, even as a coach, I know I have clients that when I start getting them to self-reflect and self-aware, I can watch their physiology, their body language. Oh, this is so tiring. And even for those listening, if you're kind of like, oh, you're de-energized, it's probably a good indicator that it's not an energizer. So what do? We start to look at other things that you can lean on. So let's say you're a planner or you're an organizer, and that's a strength. Put in your plan or your strategy, or how you organize your day. When can I be reminded to self-aware and just do a quick check on what do I need to know? What did I learn? What would I do differently? Just the simple awareness checks. How did that meeting go? What would I do differently? What worked really well? Just those little habits, and it keeps us nicely above the thing, or in the balcony of it, so we can have perspective rather than being in it. And that's the oscillation as leaders, as you know, in our own business leaders. When we start to think about this, we've got to actually be able to get into the doing of the in the business, and then on the business is crucial. And it's a big lesson that I had early on. I got too far in the business that it was actually affecting my resilience and my mindset, because I needed to get self-aware. So getting on that balcony, so plan it, lock it in, make it a practice and not such a heavy lifting of it. And the questions you ask is another way to get out of the weeds of it. So that little practice of what could I learn? What would I do differently? What's my action? Those little things make a big difference.
And reduces the cognitive load because it becomes
Exactly.
a habit.
Yes, we want to make these things a habit, and that's the distinction of being able to execute on resilience, is actually creating those micro habits so that we make it a pattern. And we'll talk a little bit more about that soon.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned resilience, which is what we're here for. How do
Yeah.
you personally build resilience? I mean, you have so much on. Every time I talk to Maria, there is so many exciting new projects, and obviously you also have your son, and there's so much going on and so much travel. So for you, you're juggling a lot of different demands, as are, I imagine, most of the people that are watching or listening today. So how do you juggle those demands and still be resilient or build resilience while running a business?
Absolutely. And I'm telling you now, have a plan and have a strategy for your resilience, like your self-care, because it's so easy as women to put it over, to go, I'll just keep doing that one more thing. I'll make that call. I'll do the thing. I'll get the kids. I'll go and do like, we just get so busy that we don't make it a practice. It's an intentional, deliberate practice. It doesn't just happen. It is just like going and walking, eating right, exercising. It's all intentional practice, and it has to be done consistently. It's not I'm going to go away and have a day of digital dieting and not touch my phone on a weekend. It's actually every day, what can I do to build that resilience? And it's having a rule around it, having a vigilance around self-care and resilience. So it's allowing us, resilience is about being able to bounce back, right? It's being able to actually deal with what comes up. And so again, if you think of it as a muscle, so I have really clear rules around my self-care. They're non-negotiables. So I do travel a lot, and I'm always somewhere. In every week I'm on a plane somewhere else, somewhere different. So I have to be even more vigilant in able to do the work I do, because I'm working with people, and that's its own dynamic. So things like what I put in my body is really important. Now, that's important to me because what I put in my body tends to have a reaction if it's not good. I'm just one of those people that I'm like, if I eat the sugar, I feel pain. Probably a good thing, right? Behaviorally, but it's
So I
rules that
had
I
that.
have. Yeah. No. So trust me though, there are times where I'm like, I don't care, it hurt. I'm eating the chocolate, right? There are those moments where I'm completely give into it. But it's having that, like taking a walk, it's having the reset moments, intentional, like waking in the morning and having intentional focus. What do I want for the day? Having a closure to the day, those rules around self-care. So one day a month, I must have a jammy day. So on a Sunday, it means there's no rules. There's no, do whatever you want. If you want to eat whatever you want, don't exercise, jammy days. And that means that I do what I want. It's not scheduled. Nobody's telling me what to do. If I want to wake up and wear the jammies for the day and watch Netflix, that's happening, right? So it's creating that permission that I can actually do those things, being with people that I care about, having meaningful connection, all the things that fill up my cup. But you've got to create a rule around it. It's got to be in the schedule. You've got to have it there. Otherwise, because of cognitive load, when we think cognitive load, it's the open loops. It's I've got this going on and that going on. I've got to get this done. I've got to deal with that issue. All the things that have us get cognitive load means that we're not filling up our cup. But if I have a rule or it's scheduled, I'm more likely to do it. And our brains need that. It needs the nudge to go in and do the thing. So if you think about your resilience plan or your self-care plan, this is really important to think, what am I doing to fill up my cup? And by the way, it doesn't need to be the 30-minute walk or the yoga Pilates or the deep breath work. I could do a simple breath work exercise, like simple breath out, like one long I tell my body in that moment, I'm safe and it's okay. We can relax, and I'm down regulating, and I'm activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. And I start to think more clearly and I start to relax. And I know we all are running at 100 miles an hour, and we've actually got to build this in, but it can be a moment. You could do wall staring right now to downregulate, which builds resilience. You could actually do cloud staring in a moment. That's all it takes. It doesn't need to be hard, difficult, complex. Keep it easy, keep it simple. You're more likely to get it done.
In terms of building the plan, I know I hear from small business owners a lot that the idea of forward planning, the idea of having to like put that kind of thing in place feels like another job in a never-ending list of tasks, and that they don't have time to do that because they're doing all of the other things. And I'm always reminded of that cartoon with the guys pushing the box up the hill, and the other guy comes along behind. He's like, "Hey guys, I've got this amazing thing. It's called a wheel. You should check it out." And they're like, "I'm too busy to like think about your wheel." How do we make time? And I know that, just prioritize it, sure, but how do we make time to find out what the wheels are and then attach them to the box?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm actually going to start with something really important. When I started Bounce, I did my business plan. And the question I asked myself when I pulled the business plan together was, this business is reliant on me, right?
Mm.
And so what does that mean? What does it take for this business to work if it's relying on me? It means that I can't get sick. It
Mm.
means that I need to be at my peak. I need to be flourishing. I need to be engaged,
So
at,
much
at
pressure.
least totally, right? And I thought, well, what's it going to take to do that? What do I need to put in my business plan? Back in 2006, I actually had a whole well-being strategy of the things that would allow me to have self-care, because then it becomes important to the business,
Mm.
right? So the value drove the behavior. Now, have I done it right all the time? No. Have I fallen off and sort of fallen into a heap? Absolutely. Have I run at a pace where I'm exhausted and I get sick? Yes, because I have stopped listening, self-awareness to self, and putting something in place. I will say this, if you're not putting it in the calendar, if you're not scheduling it, it's not going to get done, because we're so busy and distracted. We are a distracted world now, and those lovely devices that are incredibly powerful and are changing the world are also, they're our biggest nemesis, because we've got to have a better relationship to distraction, call it, own it, and then have a nice plan and strategy. So what does it mean? If you're all starting out, you just think, right, okay, what's my resilience plan and how am I doing that? And we're going to have some tools and resources for this, but it's just the simple things. But again, putting it in the schedule, but let people know, hey, I'm taking care of myself. This is a self-care day, or I'm going to take some time out and fill up my cup. I'm going to go walk in nature. And I think what's interesting, because we are so distracted, we think picking up our phone and doom scrolling is going to fill our cup, and it doesn't. Has anyone picked up the phone and gone onto Facebook and found, wow, it changed my life, I feel amazing? No, but we're addicted to it. So we have to be better than the addiction and find strategies that are put in place and planned for.
Mm.
So that means it's like the little micro habits, the one thing I can do. Even if you say on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, what's the one thing this week that's filling up my cup? One thing. That's all I'm going to do. Not 25, just the one thing, because you're more likely to get it done.
Mm.
So I'm going back to that whole business plan, is that drove the behavior because it was built into my plan and built into the business. And today, even the language with my team at Bounce, we don't say sick day. It's like, I'm taking a whale day. So we want to have the language, words create worlds, right? We want the language to be about what we're creating. And yes, people get sick, but it actually is about, do I need to sort of, and we pace that with our team. You can tell when someone's overwhelmed or stressed out, like, do you need some time out? I get that way, and I'm like, I need to go into switch off mode. So the more I have an awareness of it, but then schedule it in and make it happen. But truly, If you're not willing to lean in to do the little bit of hard, and that's the challenge we have now that we're so distracted, we don't want to do the hard things. The hard thing for some of you, the planners in this listening, is like, they're like, I got this, Maria. I'm going to plan this out and it's going to happen. For those that aren't planners, just trust me on this. Do the hard thing, have a plan and work the plan. You'll have success with this.
So what does a day in the life of Maria Smith look like? Like, what does your self-care
Okay.
plan entail?
Okay, so if you saw my calendar, I've created calendars that are not my bounce calendar, but I've created self-care things. So I have my morning ritual calendar. And so that has an alarm that goes off, and morning ritual means the things I do in that morning. Now, that could look like I get up and I do some form of movement, whether it's Pilates, walk. I have started running again, whether it's a run, whether it's resistance training. It depends on where my body's at. I listen into that. So the morning ritual includes some movement and then some down regulation. So I do have a sauna, and you can get, I moved to an apartment. I'm like, I've got a sauna bed now. I'm loving the sauna bed. So sauna is a great down regulator. So morning ritual is that. However, there's this flip side of self-care, and that is the morning wake up and flow strategy. So let's say I've got a piece of work. Now, this is the coolest thing I want to share. If I've got a piece of work due and it's going to take a bit of my brain to engage in it, I will wake up and flow, meaning I'll do a 90-minute flow cycle. So up at 6, do 90 minutes of the work I've got to do. Now, I can tell you in that 90 minutes, it probably would equate to 4 hours of quality work, no distractions. My brain is like straight in and fresh. And then after that 90-minute cycle, I will then do some active recovery. So I will exercise. When I have done this, it has been incredible, the quality of work, the output, the energizer. So it's you wake up and do the work when no distractions. I've got someone on my team who does all our comms. She's an incredible writer. She just does this beautiful, incredible work. And Donna put the wake up and flow into her schedule. And she has 2 kids. She's got an incredibly busy life. She's on board. She's an amazing change maker, right? And she put 90-minute wake up and flows into her life, wakes up, and maybe once or twice a week, wake up and do 90-minute flow work. It equates to her 4 hours of work during the day. Like, she'll actually wake up, do the wake up and flow, and she's gotten those things done. How energizing is that when you get that stuff off the to-do list? So if you were looking at the day in the life of Maria, that's my morning ritual, the most important part of how my day starts. Now, my
Can I ask you a question about that first?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Is there coffee involved? Like, do you take the time to go and like get coffee, or do you literally just roll out of bed and like get onto the computer?
Great question. So the wake up and flow 90-minute, literally wake up, bathroom, work, no coffee, nothing. Now, and let's say the night before I have the computer, I have everything set up, ready to go. So writing the book, this is a lot of how writing the book happened. So it would be the night before, prep what I want to work on, have the first 1 or 2 sentences ready to go, wake up, straight out to the computer, nothing else, straight out. And you know what's weird is like your brain's like, what? And then suddenly flow, and flow is an incredible state. People that are artistic, people that are brilliant in sports, they naturally get into flow. So now it's about having that level of flow in our work life. Like, as business owners, this is a powerful distinction for getting cool work done and a lot of work done, especially in our busyness. So yeah, so there is coffee after that.
Well, I should hope so.
For sure. I'm telling you, there's coffee.
What about at the other end?
So the end of the day. So I have a wind down ritual. So I have that calendar that does the reminder. Wind down ritual is no device after 9. So I do have a very strict sleep schedule. I have an Oura ring. You know, I live and breathe this stuff. So I have a 9 o'clock down regulation. So the phone goes onto silent, so no more pings. Although if I've got favorites and people maybe on my team, if someone needs me, you'll get pinged for that. But 9 o'clock, no device. So it means there's no anything. I've got strict rules on socials, meaning I get cut off after 5 minutes. And that's just having it easier for my behavior. So I don't have to think about get off the phone. It tells me to get off the phone or off the thing. And then wind down ritual looks like either reading or some kind of down regulation, not And I used to watch Netflix, and what would happen, what I noticed is I'd watch something and I'd be like, oh my God, I need to watch the next episode. And so then I'm like, oh no, that was so good too. I'm going to watch the next one, because they designed it to have us do it and not stop. So we binge watch. And I was like, Maria, don't start the Netflix at night. Just don't do it unless it's a Friday night. Like, have a rule around it. And so that's another rule that I have, right? So at night, 9 o'clock, wind down. So by 10, I am sleeping until 6. I do my 10 till 6, and the natural wake up occurs. So they're the bookends of my day, and that is what I commit to. And now, sometimes I go out late. Sometimes I've got a function, and sometimes I have a glass of wine, and sometimes I wake up and sleep in, or wake up not feeling great. I'm human, so
Sometimes
there are
jet lagged, I
moments.
imagine.
So, oh, let's not start on the jet lag, but the jet lag is another one that I've got to manage as well. But I have routine and rituals around those as well. So the more I put it in my calendar and I calendar worship, the more I'm likely behaviorally to do the thing. So
Mm.
what I'm saying is, if I didn't have those guardrails, I wouldn't do this. So
Mm.
that's me getting it to support the behavior that I want. Now, a lot
Mm.
of this is, I will say, I've done it many years. It's habit now. So there's a lot I don't think about.
Mm.
I might say I'm not going to wake up and work out, or do a wake up and flow, because I'm feeling like I'm just going to wake up and have coffee and have some breakfast and relax. So it's also being very tuned in and listening in
Mm.
to what my body needs as well.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you've mentioned a couple of times now the idea of emotional regulation, down regulation. You mentioned the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
So maybe we should get a little bit technical
Yeah.
and talk about some of those things.
Yeah. So now a lot of the idea around that self-awareness piece is, the next step is our self-regulation. So how are we regulating ourselves when stress happens, right? How are we being aware of that, I've just had a phone call, or I got a text or an email, or a customer's upset, or something's occurring in the business or in life, is to think about now, have an awareness of it, and notice that, oh, my heart rate's increased. I'm starting to get frustrated. There's a whole lot of, you know, things happening in my body that's making me feel overwhelmed or stressed. So the self-regulation is what I do next that's crucial and important. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in. Self-awareness, self-regulation means, oh, I'm really frustrated and upset. Rather than respond right now or call, I might just take a moment and take a walk and down regulate. Because when I'm down regulating, I'm activating parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, but I'm actually activating system 2 of my brain, which is logical, which allows me to make a better decision, which allows me to self-regulate, which then might change my tone, versus picking up the phone and then we have to deal with that, because then we create a whole other thing. Yeah. So it's actually going, oh, I need to just take a moment and think this through. I'll never forget, I don't know, it was around COVID, and there was something that happened in our business, and I got the call from someone on my team, and they were like, "Oh, Maria, we've something's happened," and it was really a bad thing. It was like we accidentally sent data out that we shouldn't have, and it was an accident. It was human error, and that's what happens, right? Now, in that moment, I remember getting on the phone, hearing it, and I have an adrenaline rush, right? So immediately I feel the heart pounding. I'm listening to this going, oh, this is terrible and horrible. I start going to meaning making, and I say to the person, I will call back in 5 minutes. I will talk to you in 5 minutes. And I hang up the phone because I need to downregulate. So I literally lay down and I do box breathing. And box breathing is a really simple practice where you count for 4 or 10 or whatever it is, whatever you do, but you breathe in for a count, you hold for a count, you breathe out for a count, then you hold for a count. And it's literally a box, right? And I did it for 5 minutes without, trust me, my thinking brain was like, oh, this is bad, this is bad. But I actually just focus on the breath, because I wanted to activate system 2, the logical part of my brain, so that I could be strategic and find a solution rather than be in panic mode. So when we go to that moment, the amygdala hijacks, we go panic, like this, and then we've actually got to activate, and that actually stops dopamine, which is our logical, helping fuel the logical brain. It actually stops that dopamine, right? And so we actually need to downregulate by doing either a long breath out or box breathing. So it could just simply be, if you ever see someone going, that's actually really great strategy to de-stress. So I then had the 5 minutes, the breathing, and I called back my team member. And in that 5 minutes, they'd solved the problem and had a strategy. So they had it sorted, which they do. My team's
Amazing.
amazing. My team's amazing. But for me, it was the practice of, because imagine this, how resourceful is it to talk to someone? And let's say it's a customer, or let's say it's somebody in your life that you care about, and you're so triggered that you suddenly are not going to give logical feedback or logical information. It's emotion based. That's system one. And system one by default's lazy. So it's going to go for the quick and reactionary stuff. And so regulation, self-regulation means that I'm starting to emotionally regulate and I can self-manage. So
Mm.
it is a superpower. And again, practice, the more I practice the breath work, it becomes unconsciously competent so that we have more access to that. So you can notice yourself when you tighten the jaw, when you've stopped breathing, when you feel threatened. And it could be subtle threatened. It doesn't have to be this. It could be somebody says one thing and you're like, right? And just having that awareness to like down regulate so I can be present and listening in to what's being said, not listen to respond, which is what happens when we're not self-regulating.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if in that same scenario, your staff member rings you and tells you that this disaster has befallen your business, and you respond in the moment, and you shout and you tell them that they're stupid? There's no way they're solving the problem after that. Like, then they
Well,
need to go and like
exactly,
recover.
Jody. Yeah, because I've triggered them and they're probably
Mm.
going, oh my God, I'm a failure, and this, whatever's going on for them. And so they're not going to be resourceful. They're not going to find the solution. And they had the solution. They figured it out. I didn't have a reaction. I just said, can I call you back? And that was what was so, and it was allowed them to figure it out. And they were thriving because they actually are great at problem solving. So
Mm.
mm,
Okay, that's very
yeah.
interesting.
Mm,
How do you recognize the early signs of burnout in yourself? You've mentioned like being really in tune with your body. What does it look
mm.
like for you, and what does it look like for other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Now, every one of us is different, wired differently. So, for me, when I know that I'm hitting that, I actually can feel my body start to feel like there's a virus in it. So it's a
Mm.
really unique thing that I feel it mainly in the back and down my arms, where I'm like, oh, okay, I must be tired. Something's happening here. And so that's my little red flag to go pay attention. So maybe today, what can I do that's going to be fun and not thinking and overthinking? So I might actually go watch Netflix to just go chill out, Maria. It may be that. It could be that. Do I need to put some healthier food in my body, drink more water, those sort of things? So I've got a pretty good attention to myself because I've got self-awareness as a strength. So I'm pretty well, tuned into those things. Now, I think for others, it's important to just start to notice this. Like, what are the signs? The sooner we can get the signs, the better. Now, I will say that this Aura ring, and I can't believe I'm plugging them. I don't get any money from it, but they have this interesting thing called the minor symptoms, and it takes all your biometrics, and it can see that. And I just had it this week, and it can see that. Hey, your biometrics are telling us your heart rate variability, your heart rate, your body temperature. They're kind of escalated. You've had a bit of stress going on, Maria. True. And so we need you to make sure you don't overdo it today. So there are times when I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to go for a run. And then I read it and I go, oh, actually, I need to not do that. So I'm going to down regulate and I might just do a slow walk. So if you need a tool or resource to give you the feedback until you have enough awareness of that feedback, that's a really good thing. I think if you could reflect on the past. So when I have felt burnt out, what were the warning signs? Do some self-reflection, or what did I notice about my behavior? Maybe I got a little bit short and sharp. Maybe I dropped the ball. So what were the things prior to that? Bring awareness to some of those thinking patterns or feeling patterns and behavior patterns, so that we can start to then have a strategy for what's ahead, and bring awareness to it as well. You might have a trusted friend who might give you that, like, oh, I think you're moving into that. I have friends that go, Maria, I can see it in your eyes. You're tired. I'm like, yep, great. And that's a good piece of feedback where it'll show up like that as well. So there's a lot of tools and resources. The most important thing is learn to listen to yourself and know those distinctions of when you're pushing hard. And a lot of you I know, because you've chosen to build a business and you're going in and doing this on your own, you're also very likely to not listen to your body, and you are likely to keep driving and driving and driving. Just build in some mechanism. When we are passionate about what we do, and when we talk about work-life balance, I actually think when you love what you do, that doesn't matter because you're energized and you love it. The distinction is when we're overdoing that drive because we've got to deliver or we've got to get a thing done, we can override our listening because we get in our heads. But if you actually take a breath, how's my body feeling? What's going on in my body? Bring awareness to it and then listen and do something with that. If you feel tight in the shoulders, go get a massage, or go get in the sauna or go have a spa. Like, do something so you're honoring your body in this. It's our greatest wisdom of who we are as women. So
What I'm loving about this is that it feels so much more achievable to me. This might say something about me, but it feels so much more achievable to me to have other things telling me what to do in the first instance. So the idea of the aura ring giving you that information and telling you what to do. The calendar is already set up. It's telling you what to do. So that cognitive load gets to decrease in the moment because you've done the preparation, which then, with the aura ring, for example, you're able to learn how to listen to your body because you can get that information given to you and then say, okay, well, how have I been feeling? Okay, so linking those feelings to that data, okay, that's what I need to look out for in future. And then you can actually build a resilience practice out of that, which I personally, maybe I like being told what to do, would find really would find it a good scaffolding, I think.
Yes, yeah. I'm saying that it's important for me because it means I'm not thinking about it. And with cognitive load, things are going to get missed. And that's the distinction of these micro habits that I can put in place. Because to think that everybody's suddenly going to go, yes, let's work the plan and let's do the things. We get busy. Life happens. We are so distracted. It's like, I got to get this thing done. I got to make sales, Maria. I'm not stopping and breathing. I got to make some sales. But if I get a nudge, and watchers can do it too, you don't have to, there's other things that are on the market. You need those nudges as long as you pay attention, but put it in the calendar, make it scheduled to make it a habit so it becomes unconsciously competent. And I think that's the distinction of what we absolutely need as a superpower to embed to have success in anything we do, and especially as women in business. It's a must. To me, this is a non-negotiable.
Love that. You often talk about the power of positive self-talk. How has that shaped your confidence and your credibility in business settings? And credibility is a really big one. We hear that a lot from women small business owners in particular, that they struggle to get that credibility, particularly if they're in an industry where there's a lot more men. That can be a real challenge. So how do you use positive self-talk for that?
That's a great question. When I started Bounce, actually talk about credibility, it was really challenging, and I probably there was some men that weren't very like opening the way or being, welcoming in the context of what I was doing. And it would have been great to have that backing and support. I just had to keep proving myself, even when I doubted myself. So it was that whole act as if. And I think the thing about positive mindset or positive self-talk is the and I say this to people, is putting the and into the statement, which is, I don't have the confidence and I'm still going to do it. I'm not sure I've got this right and I'm still going to give it a go. I'm not getting backing and I'll still put myself forward. The magic of and is just understanding that linking is, and it changes the brain because it also includes my doubt and gives me some certainty. So I'm creating a permission in my mindset as well. And, when we have self-doubt or uncertainty, it's just the and, like, I don't have the confidence and I'm still going to do this thing. And building credibility, and I'm 20 years, and it's it's taken that long, right? It's not, there's not the whole overnight, might appear like overnight success, but it's just the consistency of believing in something more than anybody else. And if it doesn't matter that people aren't believing me, I've got to believe in me. And even when I don't, I'm still going to do it. So that language and reframing into, I'm so, like a reframe from I can't do this, or I don't have what I need, or I don't have the networks. But if I did, what would I do? If I did have the networks, if I did have the confidence, if I did have the thinking, what would I do? And that just shifts us into, the brain says, oh yeah, what would you do? Yeah, I suppose you would take that action, you would do that thing, and then follow through and do the action. So you create behavior change as well.
I was actually
So
reading about some research about that recently, where they asked like the control group to just like think about a thing, and then the test group was asked to imagine that they were an expert in the thing and then think about the thing. And the people who were asked to imagine that they were an expert had significantly better results, even though they weren't experts and didn't have any better expertise than the other group. Just kind of mind-blowing, right?
it is, and it feeds into that imposter syndrome thing, right?
Mhm.
Where suddenly, and I'm telling you, in the world that I work in and the people that I work with, like everyone has that. Everyone's got some little thing on their shoulder, like, oh, you can't do this, right? And it's just go right? And I doubt myself and I'm still going to do it. And I think I'm an imposter and I'm still going to go forward. But incredibly, the beliefs about myself affect my outcome. So when we start to, what's my listening of myself? How do I listen to myself in this context? Am I listening to myself as the possibility to do this thing? Or am I listening to myself as the failure to not do it? So reframing into, what is my thinking or my listening of myself that will have it be different? And that puts us into a growth mindset. That puts us into that sense of like, well, what is possible here? What could I do? Even when it feels like there is no solution. And then we start to move into that downward spiraling of the negativity. We want to upward spiral into that positive thinking, positive flourishing, but how I can move from that. And that's not to say there's no problems, everything's okay. We're not pretending not to know. It's including it, right?
Yeah.
There are problems and I'm going to find this solution. And all of that just weaves into that mindset, that positive self-talk. And you know what? There's going to be times when you're not going to be positive self-talking. Don't beat yourself up about it, because you'll just be even more negative about it. So it's like, oh, hey, I'm just putting myself down. Got it. Thanks for sharing. Now what can I do? So just include it rather than cut it out of ourselves. It's just part of being human.
Mm. I'm glad you mentioned imposter syndrome, because I wanted to ask you about that. Now, I'm conscious that the audience is probably champing at the bit at this point to be able to ask you some questions. So we are going to come to your questions next. But before we finish up, what advice would you give to women who feel stuck in a fixed mindset or are battling imposter syndrome as they start their business journey, or as they're trying to grow their business or have their business survive?
Yeah. So I think what's important is there's a piece around our identity, the I am statements, right? So how do I see myself as a business owner, as a businesswoman? And let's drop the comparisonitis. Like, don't compare yourself to anyone else. You just be you, and be you in the world of what you're doing. And there's enough references of incredible women out there that are just like, they've created a thing, built a thing, and they've designed a thing, and they're selling it, right? A lot of this is about, understand that I'm unique in what I do and what I'm putting into the world, and be committed to that drive and that passion. Now, the fixed mindset piece is interesting. So in business, if we look at growth mindset, it does mean that we're more likely to find solutions and engage, and we recover from a setback. And it means we're going to ask a different question. But sometimes we can get fixed. It's not to say people aren't I can get fixed. Sometimes I can feel very fixed on a thing, but it's got to be this way. And that just becomes tight and unreasonable. So be curious. I would say dial up curiosity to go, what could I do differently on this one? So a nice way to move from fixed to growth is be curious, not judgmental. Curiosity dials the brain into engagement. Judgment shuts us down. So lean in and be curious about it. And you know what? Here's what I think about the whole imposter syndrome. It's a part of ourselves. have a conversation with that part that goes, you shouldn't be doing that. Just say, great, tell me more about it. Like, make friends with that part of ourselves. Like, if I think of it, it's like it's in the shadows, and we do this whole projection thing of like, I shouldn't be doing this. And oh, what if they find out? What if everyone finds out that I don't have it handled? And you know what? It's about you finding out that you do have it handled. So what others think about me is not important. What others think about me is not as important as what I think about me. And so how do I embrace that part of myself that's the imposter syndrome? What can I learn from that? What can I take on with that? I mean, if you want to get really deep, there's a little bit of that idea of how we've projected our own doubts and fears into the imposter of ourselves. But it's also how we speak to ourselves in more loving, kind, and caring ways, and just notice it as a part. Like, okay, what if I wasn't so hard on myself? What if I actually just show up and let it all unfold? Um, and I just think there's a way to integrate these parts of ourselves. I'm being a little bit esoteric here, but it just comes down to this idea of, rather than have it be a thing that's like, oof, I don't want to own it, just go, oh, that's there. And I'm still going to do the thing. I'm still going to act as if. And I've got imposter syndrome, and I'm still going to feel like, and PS, everyone's got it. Everyone I interact with at different levels, where you think they wouldn't have it. Absolutely, it's there. So it's just being human. It's just
Mm.
being human. So just love on it.
Yeah, I love that. All
Yeah.
right. We're going to turn to audience questions now. Sushmita, are you there? Do you have some questions from the audience for Maria?
Yes, hi Maria.
Hello.
Uh, gone. Yes, we have a question here, which is, what is the best way to manage emotions? As women of early 40s, sometimes we may not be able to show our real emotion to the coworkers. It is noticeable. However, due to your position in the business, we may need to step back and hide, take time and take time out and come back. Do you have any practical solutions learned from your experience?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So, so part of this is giving yourself permission to be human, right? So there's a little bit about, sometimes we've got to be a certain way in the workplace. So when we develop trust in the workplace, there's probably more authenticity and more transparency. But if the context is that I've actually not got to put that self forward, again, it's going to come down to that practice of how I'm emotionally regulating and how I can make those adjustments. So a simple thing is this: create permissions. So when you're in a conversation, and let's say something does occur and you're noticing yourself upregulating, and you're starting to get a little bit of a stress response, all you need to do is go, hey, can I just take a moment? Like I did with my staff member, hey, I'm going to take 5 minutes. If you're in a conversation and you need to just take a moment, just go, can I come back to you? I just need to take a moment. Or I also create permission to say, I've got a thing happening over here. I know we've got a scheduled meeting time. I'm noticing my distraction because of this thing that's happened before. And I just want to bring that into our conversation, that I'm distracted not because of you and nothing that's occurring here, but this is what is occurring to me and what is so right now. Sometimes that language of permission lets other people go, oh, she's not upset with me. It's not about me. It's not about now. So creating that element of it. But I'm going to come back to that thing that I keep saying is this whole thing about self-regulation. It's a muscle. And so it's about being able to down regulate as much as we can when we're managing emotions as well. Now, if you were going to lean into the Brené Brown world, which is all about get in the arena, be authentic, be transparent, be vulnerable, there is a lot of power in being vulnerable. There's a lot of power in just going, hey, I know we've got this meeting on right now. I am so overwhelmed. I'm exhausted, and I'm present to our conversation. So the "and" comes into that. So you just can call it, if you've got a high trust team and a high trust context. So I hope some of that can answer it without having full context of the scenario and situation.
Can I build on the question? Sorry, taking chair's privilege.
Yes.
So I had the most fantastic conversation with a woman CEO who I have enormous respect for the other day. And she was saying, we were talking about menopause, and she was saying, don't be worried about coming into menopause, because in fact, it's a place where you're coming into your power. Now, I know that for lots and lots of women small business owners, they're actually in that point in their life, because we know statistically that in Australia, the majority of small business owners are actually in that sort of 50 kind of age group. If you're trying to run a small business while you're also going through this enormous physical experience, how do you manage that?
Oh, well, I'm living it right now. I'm 52, I'm perimenopausal, the hot flushes. It's an and. So again, I would say that my vigilance of self-care means that I can manage that better. But it is just whatever you need, the tools and resources, get access to those. Your body is going through massive change. There is no control. Like I can't control when my body decides that we're going to go and fire it up, and all those emotion changes. And again, I think it's reflective of our self-care, lack of self-care in our culture as women. And so if you look at the evidence around perimenopausal and all the things that support us going through that, that is vigilance of self-care. So what I put in my body, how I exercise my body, all the things that can trigger it. So I know if I drink a glass of wine, I will have a hot flush that night. Absolutely going to happen, right? Do I want to have the glass of wine? I'll have the glass of wine and take the hot flush. But if I'm like, I've got a bunch of stuff going on, that is how I've been able to regulate it. Now, I'm being very vigilant around this, and I know most people are not with it. So I think what's really important is that you put it into the world, you have the conversation about it, it becomes real. Like when I'm in rooms with boardrooms, I'm like, can we just turn the cooler up a little bit more than normal? My thermostat's broken, need it colder, like the things that allow me to cope with that and the strategies around it. But my gosh, you know what? It's just give ourselves some permission, like permission to be in this space and permission to include it. I love that it's part of the dialogue now. I love that we can speak freely about it and people don't, right? My mother went through menopause when she was 40 and I was a teenager. Oh, sorry, wait, not 40. My mother had me at 40. In her 50s, when I was a teenager, she went through it. And there was no context, there was no language for her. And so it was like, you didn't understand. Now we have permission, but we've got to give ourselves permission to this is what's going on with my body. And I might be more emotional and I might be more triggered. So again, the vigilance of our self-awareness and our self-care, we have to give ourselves space for that more than ever in this context.
That's amazing. Thank you. All right. Another question from the audience. Sushmita.
Yes. Thanks, Maria. That was a great explanation. This is an interesting one. What strategies would help me stay resilient when dealing with negative customer reviews online?
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. I am so relating to that because it's such a meaning-making thing, right? So we'll get our positive reviews, right, on what we deliver. And my brain used to go to the one negative. So, wait, Maria, you've got 25 positives and the one negative. My brain goes to that. We've got a thing in our brain called the negativity bias. It's there to allow us to survive. It's hardwired in to go, am I safe? Am I going to survive? But what it means is we get a negative review and we have a emotional reaction. It's the meaning making that gives us the emotional reaction. What's the meaning we're putting on that negative review? And I remember this being a really big piece to me where I would get so into that detail and I'm like, wait a minute, that means I'm in a fixed mindset because I'm looking at the problem rather than go, well, what can I learn from this? Or what's all this great stuff telling me? And so it's really easy to default to the negative review. Here's what I would do. We've got one negative review on our bounced Google thing, and it's not ours. It's actually someone's mistaken us for another brand. It's the one negative review. And I'm like, let's just own it. Like, let's just go in and we've gone in and we've got a comment on to go, hey, we really take on this feedback. We're not the company that did this. But if I was thinking about that, it's like, just what is it I can learn from this and lean into it? But the key is not to make it mean anything, because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. It's what I do with it that means something. So can I learn from it? Can I extract knowledge? But if you're getting a stress response, it's most likely a meaning-making thing. And that's That's a big distinction because we've got an emotional connection to it. We've made it mean I'm not good enough. What will people think? Oh my gosh, it's triggered my imposter syndrome. Everyone's going to know I'm not great. The customer's going to tell that customer. So the best thing to do with your mindset to get growth mindset is to go, what can I learn from it? How do I handle it? And move into that state so that you can find the answer, solution, and engage with it differently. Reframe it to go, how do I get empowered by this? What can I learn and what can I do with it? So that you're in control of the emotional response to it. Because guess what? We cannot control people's opinions or thoughts. That is just what's so. So go into the what happened. Is there something to learn and make the change if it's necessary, or if it's just somebody trolling? That's their lesson, not yours.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Hmm.
We got any others?
Yes. So there's one here. I'm really geographically isolated and a sole trader. So I'm running my business online and it can be really isolating. Is there any particular advice you can recommend for loneliness as a business owner?
Oh, yes. This one's near and dear. You know, when I started my business, it was just me. And it is that feeling of like nobody understands what you're going through. And especially you know, Bounce is located in Maryborough, Central Victoria, in a regional community. And I'm sort of located globally now. But even back in the beginning, it felt very isolating and alone. So here's what you've got to get in and network virtually if you're in an isolated area. Find people to talk to, connect online. There's so many resources and incredible groups. Like, get engaged. It's really easy to disengage and go into self, but it's actually what you've got to do. It's uncomfortable, but you've got to find a way to get out there and connect with others. And the other thing about that is that this entrepreneurial journey is a soul journey until you take the people along with you in that journey. And, you know, I'm lucky to say that I have the most incredible, beautiful team, the Bounce family, and it's beautiful to have them on the journey and have someone to talk with. But in the beginning, I didn't have that. So I had to find ways to connect in and be vigilant around that belonging connection to others as well. So again, I'm going to come back to this. In order to deal with loneliness, we have to fill up our cup and take care of our vigilance, take care of our self-care with vigilance. So the things that give us, you know, filling up the cup, if it's exercise, if it's taking time out, if it's having fun, all those things, do lots more of them. But find the networks virtually wherever you can. And you know what? Find the time to go to live events. And I think there's one coming up in March that you might want to find the time to go to the live event with the FutureMakers live event. But go to these live events to be around people and get that connection. You know, allow yourself to feel like you're part of something bigger. That's a beautiful driver as well.
Yeah, I love that. That is sadly all the time we have for questions today. Thank you, Maria, for sharing such powerful insights and stories with us today. So just for a recap, we've explored how self-awareness can shift our mindset in tough times. We've explored strategies that build resilience, ways to spot and prevent burnout, and the importance of sustainable self-care. And we've also heard how positive self-talk and an understanding of motivation can keep us confident and energized and moving forward. And I think maybe most importantly, Maria reminded us that growth isn't about perfection. It's just about practicing small, repeatable habits that are going to lighten the load and help us to lead with clarity and with confidence. So before we wrap up, just a few exciting notes. You will be able to access a recording of today's webinar along with some fantastic downloadable materials to support your resilience journey. And they will be on the FutureMakers website and they'll go up next week. So if you haven't already, make sure you sign up to the FutureMakers mailing list so you can stay informed when those materials are uploaded. And for that matter, about upcoming events, such as the one that Maria just mentioned, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in a moment. We'll also put updates whenever we put new resources on the website as well. We'll be announcing the date for our next webinar very soon. It'll focus on the foundations of business to ensure both success and recognition. So stay tuned for more details on that. And the event that Maria mentioned, our Women in Small Business Summit, is coming up on Wednesday, the 18th of March at the Shangri-La in Sydney. I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity to connect with other women small business owners, learn from each other, learn from some incredible speakers that we've got lined up, and really be inspired on your business journey. So be sure to look up the details if you're interested. And again, subscribe to the mailing list for updates on when you can register for the event. So thank you all for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Maria Smith, founder of Bounce Global, for your incredible insights. On behalf of everyone here at ACCI, we hope you're leaving with ideas that you can put into practice right away. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, you don't just have to dream about your future, you can make it. Thanks, everyone.